Welcome to our special election edition of Verify This. I'm Brandon Lewis, and along with my co-host Adian Daytil and the rest of the Verify team, we're going to cover some of the biggest topics for voters this election cycle. On the economy, we break down what Vice President Kamala Harris's, quote, unrealized gains policy would mean for the average American, and which administration actually capped insulin costs.
I did that. I did the insulin.
We capped the price of insulin at $35 a month.
With illegal immigration a top issue for voters, we show you what measures are in place to keep undocumented citizens from voting in this election.
Plus,
They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
we traveled to Springfield, Ohio, to find the origin of this false claim about Haitian migrants.
It appears to have started in a local Facebook group and then gained traction during an August 27th Springfield, Ohio commission meeting.
We also dig into Project 2025, the controversial initiative that outlines a political agenda for the next conservative president. We verify whether it calls for eliminating agencies like FEMA and answer your questions about what policy proposals the initiative actually does and doesn't recommend. And finally, we look into what election rules candidates have to abide by, like whether campaign ads actually have to be truthful.
Join us for the next 30 minutes as we cover these questions and much more in our special election episode of Verify This. First up, the economy. We've received lots of questions about Vice President Kamala Harris supporting a tax on unrealized gains. Some have claimed the policy would force average Americans to pay taxes on the increase of their home's value, even if they don't sell their home. Let's bring in Casey Decker to see how this proposal would affect you. Casey, let's start by explaining what unrealized gains are.
Yeah, it's the increase of an asset's value since you acquired it, like your home. If you purchased it for $200K and it's now worth $300K, that's an unrealized gain of $100K. Once you sell the asset, the gain becomes realized, and that's when you typically get taxed.
So what is Harris proposing? Because there are a lot of people posting on social media that her plan would force people to pay taxes on the increase in value of the home they're living in, even if they don't sell their home.
Almost all Americans don't have anything to worry about. Her plan only applies to the ultra rich, people with a net worth of at least $100 million. They would have to pay a 25% tax on each year's increase in their wealth.
So for perspective, how many people are we talking that would be impacted here?
We're talking about the wealthiest 0.01% of Americans, so less than 10,000 people. For the vast majority of Americans, this tax wouldn't affect them.
Casey, thanks so much for clearing that up for us. Let's turn now to one of Trump's proposals. You've heard him speak often about adding tariffs to goods that are made outside of the United States, especially China. Several of you asked what that could mean for prices on everyday items, so we reached out to economists to help explain. During the presidential debate, the candidates discussed Donald Trump's plan to increase tariffs on imported goods. He's proposing a 60% tariff on items imported from China and a 10 to 20% for all other countries. Trump claimed his proposal won't affect the price you pay at the store, but Kamala Harris said it would.
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years.
Several Verify viewers asked if Trump's plan would raise costs for Americans. So, let's verify. Our sources are the Council on Foreign Relations, the Tax Foundation, the American Action Forum, and the Center for American Progress Action Fund. Tariffs are taxes that the government imposes on imported goods. Here's how they work. Let's say an American store buys shirts for $10 in Vietnam and sells them for $12 in the US. Under Trump's proposed tariff, the business would pay an additional $1 or $2 to import the shirts. While the importer could absorb the cost, economists say it's more likely the business will sell the shirts for up to $14, passing the cost on to the consumer. Estimates by policy experts vary, but Trump's tariff proposals are generally expected to cost a typical household between $1,700 and $6,000 annually. So, yes, Trump's proposed tariffs would likely raise costs for Americans. Joe Biden faced similar criticism earlier this year from fellow Democrats when he imposed increased tariffs on some Chinese goods, including solar panels and electric vehicles. We've all seen the cost of everything go up, and medical expenses and prescription drug prices are no exception. Both Harris and Trump say they're trying to help seniors save money by capping the cost of insulin at $35.
I did that. I did the insulin.
We capped the price of insulin at $35 a month.
Viewers Debbie and Marianne asked us who really deserves the credit. We checked with these sources, and here's what we found. In 2020, Trump signed an executive order that implemented a 2-year cap on the cost of insulin at $35. The cap applied to around 800,000 seniors who pay for optional Medicare Part D coverage. 2 years later, Biden signed the Inflation Reduction Act, which made Trump's cap permanent and expanded it to include nearly 2 million additional seniors who are enrolled in Medicare Part B coverage. So while Trump's cap was first, Biden expanded it to cover more seniors. Coming up on Verify This, we answer your questions on immigration, including whether Harris was really in charge of border security and immigration policy.